Welcome back to How to Save Like a Mennonite, and I'm Rachel, the Mennonite Miser. And today we're going to be talking about housing. There are a lot of people suffering right now because of the housing crisis, and hopefully some of these tips may help you if you need to drastically curtail your living situation in order to remain in a home. If you are not in a home and you're homeless, I will try to post links below this video which will link you to organizations which may be able to direct you to some immediate help. And there's also state aid in your state. I know that can be very, very difficult, and hopefully that will be temporary if that's your situation. And perhaps some of these tips may help those who are kind of on the cusp of not knowing what to do to remain in a home. So obviously the first thing to think about is, do you have a family member who may let you stay with them? This can work out wonderfully, or it can be very uncomfortable depending on the situation. Some people have opted to exchange a service for living with family, and you can even exchange service for living with non-family. I knew a couple who was moving in with an elderly couple, and the elderly couple really needed yard work and cooking. They couldn't do it anymore, and this family did that in exchange for rent, or they just charged a small amount of rent. This can also work with a family member. Say, for instance, there's an unfinished den or some work that needs to be done, and you fix that up. It can increase the value of the home as well. That can really be helpful. There are also many faith-based organizations, even if you don't have a faith, that can be helpful. They're very renowned for trying to help homeless people and trying to place them, especially families. And if you have no faith and you do not want to go with faith-based organizations, some people really like to avoid them, then there are organizations and groups for almost every imaginable lifestyle you can think of. There are things like communes, for instance, and communes aren't like they were in the 70s. These are quite amazing. There are communes for people with multiple chemical sensitivity, communes for people who like organic farming, communes for people who like just about anything. So that may be an option if you can find one that really suits your lifestyle. Another one is these small living spaces. These are great. This would include either the very tiny homes that are for sale or that you can make. Some of these can be very expensive, so be careful. Some of them are, organic materials and solar paneling and everything like that. That's great and it saves money in the long run, but I don't like upfront costs because they take too long to recoup those costs. So nonetheless, some of these tiny home sites allow you to purchase the floor plans, and if you're handy, you can make your own and use your own material. These are houses that are the size of a kitchen, and they maximize space. They're quite efficient. If you don't have that much to work with, there's also small space living, and this includes 2 rooms probably at the most. And they have many blogs which deal with small space living and show you how to maximize the small space that you have. There's also 1-room living, and people who have blogged and reported about this as well. I'm sure many of you have done this. I've done it. When I was at university, I did this, and I was in very, very tiny room once. It was so small. The other one, I had my own bathroom. It was much larger, so that was really nice. But during that experience, I really learned how to save a lot of space, and I learned how to do without and throw things away. I had to throw a lot of my stuff away, and I gave it away and recycled it and threw out what I needed to throw away. But I really learned to live without, and things that I thought that I really needed and turned out I didn't at all. So there are, and I will post links to all these things. The 1-room living is something that a lot of us may have to do during periods of our life. Hopefully none of these will be long-term solutions, but things that may help you to just kind of get back on keel there. There's also Section 8 in public housing. These tend to have very, very long waits if you're not homeless, understandably, because they have to place homeless people first. That's quite essential. The waits can be like years and years and years, so just a heads up on that if you're not homeless. Then there's also shared buying. This can work. It's essentially making your own commune in a way. You have to really trust the people that you do this with, though, whether it's one other person or 3 other or 10 other. You basically buy a home that would suit you all and cost share on that. I read about a family who did this. There were 5 different families who each had a disabled child, and the disability was expected to last for the lifetime of the child. And they purchased a very nice large home for their children, so they each had their own room and had a place to stay for the rest of their life. That worked out really well for them. Then, of course, there's the whole camping scenarios with campers and tents. Campers can be wonderful. Some have showers and tables and electric hookup and everything, but there can be costs associated with that in terms of gas or hauling it around, and then it can be difficult to find a place to park. Some large department stores allow you to sleep there overnight. Some don't, and you'd have to check into that. And then there is tent living. Tent living is probably as low as you can go financially in terms of just your finances, because there are very few costs. This can be very hard, or it can be quite refreshing depending on how much of the outdoors you like. There are people who do write about their experience in tenting and how they've made it work and how they've made it work with other people. Sometimes they're with other people. Sometimes they have very large tents. You can buy these wonderfully large army tents that are quite rugged. I've seen them, and they're really actually nice. They give you tips on how to heat your tent and things like that. So I'm not downplaying how hard this is if you're living in a tent. I'm just saying that there are some people, and I will try to post under this video to people who are successfully tent living and those who even enjoy it, and they may be able to assist you in that if that's what you're either forced to do or choosing to do. If you have gone through your own housing crisis and have gotten out of it, I encourage you to post your story here and to put links if you have blogs or other places where you've written about this, because it's very difficult for people when they are faced with a housing crisis. If you're in it and are surviving and are getting out of it, or if you've already gotten out of it, any way that is your situation, please do post about that to encourage other people. This video is just to help other people who are in a housing crisis, and hopefully we can help someone and prevent them from becoming homeless.